legislature.
Call meeting to order, please. Roll call, Cassandra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislator Hathaway,
I'm here.
Legislator Berkler. Here. Legislator Mosier is currently excused. Legislator Gilbert.
Here.
Legislator Chartrand.
Here.
Legislator Morahan. Here. Legislator Leviker.
Here.
Legislator Osborne.
Here.
Legislator Nellenbach.
Here.
And Legislator Dahlhoff.
Here. And Legislator Moser should be here shortly. She's on the way. Please stand for the invocation of the pledge. Bill, if you would lead us in the invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, as always, we thank you for the blessings that you bestow upon us. Many of them we don't even realize, but all of them we appreciate. And we would ask you to reach down and help our citizens in need. Put your helping, healing hand on them. And also, would you put your helping hand on those caring for them? The family, the friends, the caregivers, the medical staff, and those people, those county employees that come to work every day just to help their fellow citizens. Please let them know that we appreciate it and you got their back. And Lord, most of all, would you please help our country to get back to where we started and where we belong, one nation under God. Stay with us, God, we need you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless you.
Okay, we need a public hearing on the 2023 tentative Lewis County budget. And we will open that now, and if there's anyone here that would like to comment on the budget. Jonathan Miller?
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Miller. I have the honor of being the president of the Lewis County Historical Society. I apologize for sitting. I've managed to screw up my back to fairly well, and if I stand, I'll probably be over on my side fairly quickly. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak. I will try to be brief, always a challenge for me, but I'm here to speak in support of our request that the county's annual funding to the Historical Society be increased by $15,000, as well as to answer any questions you may have. I've spent most of my career away from Lewis County. I'm only relatively recently back here. I apologize that there are many of you I don't know, but a number of my members of my board have come who are probably more well-known to you. They're here to support what I have to say. They're not all going to, I don't think, stand up one after another and say the same things that I'm saying, but just for those of you that don't know, Arlene Hall is here. Many of you may know her as she currently works for my cousin Ed Merrill, but she's the former executive director of Mountain View. Way back when, I won't say when, Arlene, the former curator of the Historical Society when it was down in Lions Falls and of Constable Hall. Bob Meekins, many of you know. Bob does a lot of things, but probably remember him best as president of the Lowell Academy School Board. Jake Styria is here. You probably know his wife maybe better than he is, but Jake is a new addition to my board. Jake is a history teacher here in Lowell Academy. Next to him is Cole Mullen. Cole is our operations manager, our office manager. He runs our operations day to day, and knock on wood, he stepped forward when our longtime curator, Jerry Perrin, died during the pandemic. Peter Hayes, many of you may know, village historian for Constableville, town historian for West Turin, curator of Constable Hall. Deb Barnard, right behind me, recently retired, former primary school teacher at Constableville. Mary Kelly is every time I twist it hurts, so I'm not going to. But Mary Kelly is the clerk out in Martinsburg, and I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that that was the first county seat in Lewis County. Mary feels very strongly about that. I think Kay Young is here, or maybe here very shortly. Kay is recently retired too. She's the media relations officer for the Department of Defense out of Fort Drum. I probably missed somebody, but my apologies if I have. But these folks are all, they've got plenty on their plates. They don't need to be on the board of the Historical Society. They are because they believe strongly in our mission and what we do, and they're here to show their support for our request. Linda Denning, who's my treasurer, has COVID, so she could not be here. As you know, we've reached out to, I think all of you, met with a number of you, spoken with a number of you. inundated you with probably much more paper than you cared to see. My apologies for that. I watched the video of the committee meetings last week, and I sort of came to the conclusion that maybe I was losing the forest for the trees with all of that information, but it was intended to give those of you who might not know a deep dive into what it is the Historical Society really does. But before I get going, first let me thank you all for wading through that material. Let me thank you for those of you who met with us. Ian came in, I think, expecting a 20-minute meeting and 2 hours later walked out. I really appreciate that time. It occurs to me, having begun to watch what goes on in these meetings, that I apologize that we're here, on a $15,000 issue when it seems to me you folks have an awful lot on your plates and do an awful lot for the county. But let me sort of cut through things and be blunt. We need your help. We need more money, particularly with respect to operational costs of the Historical Society. Our funding year to year depends on many things, grant financings, how our endowment does, all of that kind of stuff. But most of our grant funding, I think all of it is project-related, restricted monies. When we get it, we can do something like put on a new roof or something like that. When we don't get it, we don't do it. But what we have come to learn, I think, as we've looked at ourselves, is there just comes a point with operational costs where you need money to function. You can't function essentially entirely as a volunteer organization. And so that, I think, more than anything else, underlies our request. The Historical Society is, as many of you may know, almost 100 years old. We've had a long history with the county historians over time. We're a nonprofit. We're an educational institution chartered by the Department of Education, or what's called a Historical Society with collections. But differently than many others who may appear before you, we are the historic memories of the county. Our mission is really to preserve and promote the stories and the artifacts and the history of the county. And part of that, I think, which separates us from a lot of others, is we do a lot of that for you. Everything we do is for Lewis County. I think everything. But we have operated for the county what we have called recently the Lewis County Research Center. Before that, it was known as the Office of County Historian. We have housed your documents and maintained them and curated them and made them available to the public, and most importantly, sat with researchers, people who come in to gain access to those public documents and answer their questions and help them to get through them. And we have people that come not only from all over the country, but all over the country. We had a woman in this summer from Italy who came here just to learn about Walter Hunt from Martinsburg. So we do a lot of things, but fundamentally for you, that's what we do. We maintain your documents and make them available to the public. And we've been honored this year. Lewis County went for a number of years without a county historian, and now we've been asked to be the county historian. We treasure that. We honor that. We look forward to doing that. The county was, for the longest time, the only county in the state without a county historian. We are now, I think, the third or fourth organization that is county historian for a county in New York State. And the role of county historian, I detailed in a lot of the stuff that I wrote. I certainly won't repeat it here. I've detailed a lot of our funding and the stuff I've sent you all. I won't repeat it here. I will try to sum things up by saying we're very anxious in the responsibilities in front of us. We're very anxious in working with local historians. Probably one of the biggest reasons for a county historian is to deal with the municipal historians, town and village historians that are required by law and have no assets, get no money, have no place to deal with anything, and really need help and really need guidance. And we'd like to help, but I don't know any other way than to say it, to be blunt, and to say we need more funding. I could go on and on and on, as you probably sense, and I'm not going to do that unless there are questions. But let me start kind of where I began, and that is we really appreciate your support of our request for additional funding of $15,000 for the county. And in closing, let me thank all of you for considering all this. Let me thank all of you for paying attention to all the stuff we've sent you. And the one thing I didn't really know and have started to learn as I've watched videos of your meetings, let me thank you for all you do for the county. It's a lot. Sorry I'm here over $15,000, which is probably something we should have figured out a way to deal with long before right now. But again, thank you very much, and I'll be quiet.
Thank you.
If I can for just a second. John, thank you for coming in and enlightening us on the Historical Society. When I first became a legislator, you folks, the first Tuesday in December, had your Christmas trees and snacks and what have you. Do you still do that?
We're not doing it, well, I should say, we are doing right now a holiday festival. I would encourage, it's beautiful down there. We are not doing this year, we have a hesitancy about COVID still, bringing people in. We will be back to it next year. As you probably remember, we always used to invite all the legislators to come. We'd invite all of our volunteers. We invite many of our supporters. We had a long discussion about it this year, and there's a sensitivity on our board about COVID. And because a number of the people that come through our doors are more like me, geriatrics and not terribly healthy, you know, we worry about that. But I believe strongly in, it really was a volunteer appreciation event, and every time you and others came down, we really appreciate it.
It was always a highlight for my wife and I.
But if none of you have been down to we started last weekend, it'll go on this weekend and next weekend. You know, Carmen Sweet is down there with all his trains, and we've got, I don't know, 20 some odd trees, and it's just a beautiful way to start the holiday season.
The trees are still for purchase?
Yeah. We had, I think last year we had probably 2,000 people come through the door.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. One thing I forgot to mention is privilege of the floor. We try to limit it to 5 minutes. I forgot to mention that. But going forward, if anyone would like to speak, at least keep that in mind if you can, trim it down to that. So, is there anyone else that would like to speak on the 2023 budget?
Hi, good evening. My name is Eileen Mathis, and I proudly serve as the director of the Krogan Free Library. I am here tonight with representatives of libraries in Lewis County and the North Country Library System. Thank you for including the funding request from Lewis County Libraries in your 2023 budget. This funding will make a difference across our county through each of our libraries. When people think of libraries, they often think of a single picture. A room with books where people have to be quiet. That stereotype is well documented and cemented in our consciousness. But when I think of a library, after having been a patron most of my life, working in one for several years, and watching many libraries, including those in our county, a much more complex picture comes to mind. Vibrant, multifaceted places that hold space for many needs in our community. In Lewis County, libraries offer craft, art, STEM, and literacy programs for both children and adults. Book clubs and civic events are places where people find kindred spirits. We offer education and workforce readiness support with test proctoring, peer tutoring, and online resources. We have meeting spaces that are used by community groups and agencies. We offer tech access and tech help, as well as connections for health insurance and tax preparation. We have fun with family movies and game nights. There are even opportunities to get outside with story walks set up all over our county. We offer a place where members of our community come in and become friends. Amanda Killian in a viral tweet said, "Libraries literally aren't just a place to obtain books for free. They're one of the few public spaces left in our society where you're allowed to exist without the expectation of spending money." What is a library? It's a space in our community where people can exist, be welcome, find something new, and simply thrive. We think maintaining that space in our community is important and are grateful that you've chosen to continue to invest in it. Thank you for including the Lewis County Libraries in your 2023 budget. Thank you for your service to our county, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to comment on the budget?
I'm Kelly Coontz. I work with Cornell Cooperative Extension. And really, I just want to say thank you. Without your support, my parenting program would not be as vast in the community as I can make it. You guys have allowed me to work with DSS as well as the community at large, just on self-referrals. On the other side, my boss would like for me to tell you thank you very much for your support with 4-H, agricultural farms. It has really helped us continue our education and outreach. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Chairman Bellhoff, does the rails trails work into the budget now?
No,
Or would that be
That will come
discussed
in.
later?
it'll be under privilege of the floor,
Thank you.
down a few lanes. Okay, the November 1st board meeting minutes, stand approved. There are no amendments. Report of the Finance and Rules Committee for Rule 6. Cassandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee has met, and they recommend to waive rules to act upon late resolutions.
Would like to make a motion. Lisa, second by Josh. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here? Well, first, legislator Hathaway would like to make some comments.
Yes, I would. Thank you. In the northern part of the county this past weekend, we had a Tug Hill event. And we're not used to that. And as our town supervisor, Zach Smith, said, we got a year's worth of snow in 24 hours, which is pretty close to it, probably. But it really required a serious response, and we got a very serious response. The kudos to the fire department and the rescue squad. They were on the scene immediately. There was many accidents and incidents that they responded to. They also opened the doors for stranded people to spend the night and feed them, and they were there for 3 days doing that. And it was an incredibly joint effort. Of course, the town of Diana Highway Department and the Pickern Highway Department and the Lewis County Highway Department, search and rescue, the town of West Turner, town of Martinsburg, town of Krogan, New York State Police, DEC, Lewis County Sheriff, Lewis County Corrections, Forest Rangers, Tar Lake Fire and Rescue, the Long Pond Snowmobile Club, and just so many citizens that were out there, and they were just neighbors helping neighbors. And it was a difficult situation, but it was a really good thing to see. And I also want to mention emergency management. They were right there on the scene right away, and they did a lot of coordination. Everybody was working together. Actually, our highway superintendent, Chuck Langs, he sent our our town supervisor on a parks run down to Turin. So it was a combination of everybody. And it wasn't just clearing the roads. They spent many hours and many miles doing wellness checks, knocking on doors, you okay? You know, there's so many private roads around Lake Bonaparte and the hunting camps, which the hunting camps were very much populated this past weekend, naturally so. One instance, there was a hunting camp that was 6 miles back in the woods that had hunters stranded. And one of our local trucking companies and a local logging company took their front end loader and their skidders and went in that 6 miles to rescue them. And for nothing, you know, just helping. And when they got back from that, they did another loop of 4 miles to rescue some other people. It was just a really good example of when people work together, good things happen. And it's a really good example of the character of the people we have in our county. They help each other. Regarding the hunting camps, there's a lot of pickups that are still there, and there's so many more deer that are there that wouldn't have been regarding that. And I guess I have to thank Ryan too. Ryan was right on it, and we really appreciate it, Ryan. You were right on it right the first time. And one thing I was hoping that we could explore is I saw where the emergency, you know, you can get 75% of the overtime cost on that. But I didn't know whether that would include a volunteer fire department or not. And obviously, they expended a whole lot of money. And, you know, they rely on donations pretty much, and the towns, of course. But I would think it would be a good thing to explore that for the fire departments, and it would help all of them. And it wasn't just ours, you know, Natural Bridge was hammered with snow, and that fire department did a whole lot too, and that community came together a whole lot too.
We will, there was a statewide disaster declared, and in fact, I'm not sure if they've declared a federal disaster yet, but that means that we are opened up for funding through the statewide declaration of disaster. So typically, the emergency management department will do one application on behalf of everybody to help them out. So obviously, the volunteer fire departments can't be reimbursed for labor, but if they did expend resources or you know, they need to have equipment repairs or something like that, you know, those types of things can be covered. We also, the Village of Loudville also went to DeFaria this morning and helped them access some of their wells and some of the critical infrastructure. So really everybody in the North Country, I think everybody has been all hands on deck. And we try to tell everybody from the beginning, keep track of your expenses. You know, it usually takes a couple of years, but we do get some money back from these things. So, you know, that is a good point, yeah.
You talk longer than me. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like privilege of the floor for anything, any issue that they have? Please remember that we're trying to limit it to 5 minutes. If you can keep that in mind, please. Would you come up and state your name and your address for the record, Scott?
Scott Doyle, I'm the Town of Denmark Supervisor. And about the last 10 days, my phone has been going a little crazy over rails to trails. I'm not going to disclose how many phone calls I've had, but I've had over 2 dozen. And I have not had one supporter call me and say, we support this. I would be remiss in my duties as a supervisor for the town if I didn't come and share those concerns with this board. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I know what it's like to do work and not see all the rewards. In fact, we've just finished a big controversy in the town, and it's not easy. Sometimes those decisions have to be made. So I'm here just to tell you that we as a board have not taken a position. We haven't voted on it. I'm here representing the people that called me, and I would not be doing my job if I didn't come and tell you that I didn't have any support for it. The biggest concerns that everyone has is the motorized portion of the trails. And the unexpected use of what that could mean in the future, whether it be ATV or snowmobile. I've heard a lot of negative regarding walking trails and biking trails. But until we get some sort of clarification on whether there's going to be motorized traffic on these trails, I can't, as a town supervisor myself, I have to throw my support behind the constituents that are calling me and have property bordered. And I did bring up the fact that you used to have trains going through there. So, but, so that's really all I had to say. And thanks, thank Ian for the time he spent with me and Ryan, and we've had discussions about it. So.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, and we will, take your comments into consideration. Anyone else like privilege of the floor?
I'm Rebecca Gilbert from New Bremen, and I would just like to encourage you and say I am in support of the Rails to Trails. And I know there's a lot of loud voices that are negative. I have heard many voices that are positive, oftentimes not loud. I think there is a fear of being bullied. I'll say on a personal note, I'm a mom of 5. I have a 14-year-old all the way down to a 1-year-old. And taking them out on the road to ride a bike, go for a walk, pushing a stroller with a 3-year-old or an 8-year-old beside me, it's dangerous. I had a cousin who was killed, first cousin who was killed on the road. And I think it's something that our county could really use wisely, and it would make a big difference for young families. I think this is a very important thing to do. I think it's a good use of the land that we have. It's not being used, and I just encourage you in your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Calvin Campney. I live on 7189 Balfour Road. I want to echo some of those comments. I'm a big supporter of the Rails to Trails initiative. I have lived in other parts of the country that have had them, and everyone loves them. I know there's fear. I know there's some concerns, especially about the motorized. I would encourage it not to be motorized, but to have 30 so miles of biking, walking, jogging trails would be amazing. I'm on Facebook. I know what the comments are saying. I think there's a lot of misinformation. I think there's just a lot of people who are afraid of something new. But having lived it, and having talked to many people who are for it, I have to agree, there are people, including myself, who aren't as vocal because of the bullying from those who are against it. But trust me, I could bring 40 or 50 people here who are very, very for it. I'm part of a bike club. We love biking. Bikes bring business. If we had safe trails off the road, we could have events, we could have 5Ks, we could have walkathons, we could have students who are in cross-country teams have a place to practice. Young families could use it. The elderly, when I lived in Boston, I used to be on the Minute Trail quite often. And almost every time I was on it, the same gentleman with his walker was walking probably just a little bit every day, but it was a safe place for him to walk. So thank you for your vision, your courage, your insight onto what this could do for our county. And just to let you know, there's a lot of people who are not speaking up that I'm trying to get to speak up. But thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Al Scouten from Port Leyden, and I'm really not in favor of the Rails to Trails. I wasn't able to attend the committee's meeting, apologize for that, but I'd like to bring it up to the board. Has the board members reached out to their constituents in your areas to hear what each constituent may say. I'm not really in favor of this poll system that's being done. To me, polls are not good. And this past couple weeks ago, we had our elections, and the polls were totally wrong. So I'm not a believer in polls. In Port Leyden, when I was mayor, we had people come to the board asking them to redo the sidewalks. We said, fine. So we checked into it, and we came up with trying to redo all of the sidewalk infrastructure in our village. As almost, and that was back in about 2012, 2013. That cost was just a shade under $1 million. So what we did the full sidewalks, and we did just the Main Street sidewalks from the cannon up on West Main over to the old flagpole station over on the far end of East Main. 2 propositions. Put it out in the mail to all of our voters, all of our residents, and that came back no, because it was a cost burden to the taxpayers of the village. So what I'm trying to say is, if the county has excess sales tax money, and apparently some of this COVID money that is available to use, why don't we as a county come together and go to all of our villages and hamlets, see what their sidewalk infrastructure is, and just do it by the villages and hamlets. That will allow your local residents, elderly, young, the ladies that would have children and strollers or bicycles, to utilize right in their own village, and they don't have to travel. I'm just really not in favor of spending that much money on a rails to trail system when we have our own residents that pay the taxes and you represent them to put that money in 34 or whatever miles plus of a trail system when our own village infrastructures aren't there. So I'm in opposition of the rails to trails. Appreciate the time to talk. Good luck. And I kind of know how you guys are sitting there. I've had to sit on the board with people too. So thanks again. Have a great night. Thank you.
Good evening. I have a copy of my prepared remarks for all of you. My name is Michael Young. I'm a lifelong resident of the county. Many of you here know I've dedicated my heart and soul to improving the quality of life for those who call Lewis County home. 20 years ago, I thought the proposal to convert existing railroad beds and tracks into public recreational multi-use trails, both motorized and non-motorized, was a good idea. I still do today. Those neglected corridors, left as is, will continue to erode and leave a scar on the environment and the natural beauty of our home. It is not the look we need if we want to attract families and young professionals, new and expanding businesses, and provide a wide variety of outdoor recreation activities for everyone, including those who live here and those who come to visit. You as our county representatives are entrusted to maintain fiscal responsibility, improve services, and seek opportunities to enhance our quality of life, not only today, but in the years to come. The Rails to Trails plan will do just that. It's roughly a 30-mile journey to an improved future, each section to be developed independently to meet the needs of each particular community. I am frustrated by some of those opposing the Rails to Trails plan. As reported in the media, certain individuals of that group have refused to share information from our county officials with others in their own group. I understand that you and other county leaders are willing to listen, have admitted that you do not have all the answers yet, and in the spirit of transparency, have offered to meet with those on both sides of the issue. All across the country, communities have and continue to take deteriorating and abandoned rail lines and find new uses for them. If we don't invest in our collective future, who will? It is time to see down those tired, worn-out tracks and realize the opportunities available to improve our communities for the years to come. It is my hope that you will move forward and approve this plan. I thank you for your time. I hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else like to privilege the floor for any issue you might have? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the 2023 Lewis County budget? If not, we will close that public hearing and move on to presentation of petitions, communications, and notices. Cassandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A letter was received from Marty McDowell thanking the board for holding the November 9th meeting on Rails to Trails and stated her support for a trail running from the fairgrounds to Castroland for hikers, cyclists, and skiers. An email was received from Brenda Painter in support of the Rails to Trails project, citing the much-needed economic boost to our economies during the winter and the opportunities for other money-generating events utilizing the trails. An email was received from Titus Zare in opposition of purchasing the rail corridor, citing the price of $2.5 million, that very few people will use it, and that it will not bring in any businesses to the county. He went on to suggest using the money to give taxpayers a sales tax break, adding a couple new deputies to the sheriff's office, and giving back to the fire departments who do more in the community than anyone. An email was received from Calvin Campany in support of the Rails to Trails, citing that he has ridden several rail trails in other parts of the U.S. and strongly believes that this is an amazing opportunity for Lewis County to have a safe space for walking, running, and cycling. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Reports of county officers and departments. Cassandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything to report.
Reports of standing committees. Tom, would you start us off with finance and rules?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report at this time.
Any questions for Tom? If not, we'll move on to Ian with General Services Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report either.
Any questions for Ian? If not, we'll move on to Lisa with Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report tonight.
Any questions for Lisa? If not, we'll move on to Dick, who's this board's representative on the Hospital Board of Managers.
Yeah, I have nothing at this time for the Hospital Board of Managers, but I do have a motion that at some time, Brian, let me know when.
We're going to vote on that separately so that you can bring that up.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any questions for Dick? County Manager report.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Mark that down.
Gee.
5:31, 11:22.
Okay, before he changes his mind, we'll move on to the County Treasurer report.
Ryan yielded all of his time to me, so sit back and let's talk. I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Eric. And we will move on to resolutions. We need to pull 277 and 278. Are there any other resolutions that anyone would like to vote on individually? Okay, I'm not sure how do we have a slate? Someone would like to make a motion to pass the rest of the resolutions as a slate, please. Lisa, second by Jessica. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Slate carries. We'll move on to 277.
This is a resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2023, making appropriations for the conduct of county government and establishing rates of compensation for officers and employees for fiscal year 2023.
Moved by Lisa, second by Josh. Discussion. Here or the next one? Dick, would you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we authorize a one-time payment to the Lewis County Historical Society in the amount of $15,000. We do this by transferring the funds from the legislative special contingency account to the Historical Society account line in the 2022 budget.
Moved by Dick, second by Josh. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Dick's motion carries. Okay. So this is roll call.
Legislator Berkler,
Yes.
Legislator Chartran,
Yes.
Legislator Gilbert,
Yes.
Legislator Osborne,
Yes.
Legislator Levicker,
Yes.
Legislator Moorhan,
Yes.
Legislator Nellenbach,
Yes.
Legislator Hathaway,
Yes.
Legislator Mosier,
Yes.
and Legislator Dahlhoff.
Yes.
Resolution number 278 is assessing and levying amount of tax called for under the county budget as adopted by the Board of Legislators on the 22nd day of November 2022 as provided for under county law.
Moved by Ian, second by Lisa. Discussion. This is a roll call also.
Legislator Osborne,
Yes.
Legislator Hathaway,
Yes.
Legislator Nellenbach,
Yes.
Legislator Berkler,
Yes.
Legislator Levicker,
Yes.
Legislator Mosier,
Yes.
Legislator Moorhan,
Yes.
Legislator Gilbert,
Yes.
Legislator Chartran,
Yes.
and Legislator Dahlhoff.
Yes. Okay, that's the end of the resolutions. Do we have any other business? See no, oh, Eric, sorry.
I think it might just be a good idea to inform the audience that there was a resolution regarding the rail corridor. That is part of this late.
There was 276. We did have a resolution that is authorizing the purchase of real property, certain rail line corridors from Genesee Valley Transportation Company. And that was included in the packet that we passed as a slate. So that resolution passed. And we will be moving forward with the railroad purchase. Motion to adjourn? Bill. Do I have a second? Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.